Tuesday on the CHGO Bears Podcast. Welcome in. Mark Carman, Nicholas Moreano, Greg Braggs with you, Junior. Looking good today. And we have a full show for you today.
Loaded.
We are going to be talking to Tory Taylor, which we recorded yesterday, is popping up here for the first time. Adam Hogue, prayers up again, once again, to his family, brother-in-law, the whole thing. Hogue is a part of that interview coming up. And we just talked with Tyler Dunne, who's got his own website now, golongtd.com, the piece that has been making news around Bearslandia here, if you will, as he does a two-part series, deep dive, going all the way back through the Mitch Trubisky era into Justin Fields, and now, of course, to Caleb Williams. Gentlemen, good lunchtime to you. Shout out to, by the way, to the two people that said hello to me on the street yesterday, which we'll get into yesterday. Wow. It was a lovely day, carousing around the city and in the burbs. But before we talk to Tyler,
know it was you for sure, or maybe they just thought it was somebody else.
I was rando corner. Carm, what's up? Love the show. Nothing makes me happier in life, honestly.
Yeah,
that's great.
I mean,
could have been anybody. Maybe they thought you were just like a homeless guy. Walking in, they were just like being friendly, like, "Hi, homeless guy."
Well, I mean, there was a.
Did they try to give you some money?
There was there was a touch of sympathy in both hellos, but mostly is because of my association with you.
I see.
Yeah, so that went down. All right, so Tyler's piece, we're going to talk to him in a second here. We'll pull it up, but it is amusing. There's a word. It is amusing to look at the Bears' dysfunction over the years and how poorly they have gone about developing quarterbacks.
Amusing is a word.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you laugh to not cry. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
If in a sports fandom way, like you couldn't have done Mitch Trubisky any worse.
No.
You couldn't have done Justin Fields any worse. And the fingers are crossed that new regime, you know what you're doing, that you won't do this to Caleb. And I don't think they will, but you have to have some level of a drop of concern, considering that they are repeating at least some of the things they've done in the past, keeping the same head coach, bringing in the OC.
Yeah, it was a sobering – the article is a sobering reminder of this playbook that they've put in.
Terrible playbook.
And the formula, this broken formula, and when, Ryan Poles talks about breaking the cycle, we all hope that, but we've done this over and over.
Time and time again.
All our rival fan bases say this. You say this every time. And we're like, oh, this time's different. And then it's never different. And I guess it is a sobering reminder of how things have gone wrong. And you do have to, take a step back and go, man, is this going to work? Because there are some flaws already in the system that you can point to and say, well, that's kind of the mistake they've made before.
Well, yeah, and you hope that even though there are some of those reoccurring issues kind of overlapping in this regime, you hope that the quarterback can compensate for those things and be the reason why that if the Bears are going to get over these same issues that keep reoccurring, Caleb Williams will be the answer. But it is like, I was reading that article, I was like pounding my fist on the table, like, damn, they really did do Trubisky dirty, and how things kind of ended up. You have to read the piece if you haven't already, but a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, and we don't touch on it huge with Tyler, but it does get hit on a little bit. The Bears, after Nagy's first year, they bring in Brad Childress, and he basically came in and was like, yo, Mitch Trubisky sucks. Wake up. You don't tie yourself to this guy. So it was basically they started looking at what he can't do versus what he could do. Mm-hmm. So you already made the pick. You're already tied to him. instead of like, this guy sucks, we got to move on, let's go trade a 4th-round pick for Nick Foles and make it even worse and run 2 offenses and just nothing that makes sense.
Dysfunction.
Yeah.
Seriously, you could do a 3-hour podcast on this article because it takes you through so many things that some of which we did talk about in the moment and some that we didn't, but it also just lays it out in this chronological order that just reminds you and just like it just lays it out very nicely. And nicely probably isn't the right word, depressingly, but it's like, damn, dude, there's just so many things like you said.
Well, and to Nick, to your point, look, Caleb, we're basically asking him, hey, man.
Save us.
Yes.
Please.
We have done this differently. And by the way, to Ryan Poles' credit, let's put talent around him.
And they've done that.
They absolutely have. Let's go get Keenan Allen. Let's draft Rome Odunze. Let's go get Gerald Everett. Let's go get DeAndre Swift. Let's go hopefully build a coaching staff that can next level this thing. But he's on some level, and I don't think he'd ever say this, I'm trying to put a roster together that is whatever coaching staff foolproof because there is just so much talent, which is a great way to go about your job. Obviously, he believes in Matt Eberflus, and the Flus's job has become a lot easier. But there are the ways that they're going about this. There are some ways that are similar, and there are some ways that are different. I mean, Trubisky had Marcus Robinson, and that was and some young talent, but not a whole lot else. And Justin, for year one, was a
Mooney.
complete nightmare. And then and now you finally got him DJ in year 3. It was just too late.
Yeah, too late to. One, I mean, you developed some bad habits already up to that point, but yeah, this version of this Bears team with this young quarterback is obviously a step in the right direction of trying to, again, right those wrongs that have kept on plaguing this team for years. So I will give Ryan Poles credit for that, for doing it this way, because this has opportunity, really good opportunity to succeed if all things hit in the right direction here.
All right, let's move it along here and pick it up here. With yes, go ahead.
I just didn't know maybe if we wanted to give a little shout out to some of our sponsors before we get into it.
We absolutely can do that. That's a great idea, Gregory. What a well thought out individual.
Well, it's a good interview, so stay tuned because it's really good.
And
got 2 good interviews.
Before we get to our fine sponsors and the interview, let me just ask you guys this question.
Mm-hmm.
Longtime Bears executive is quoted in here. It's fucking hard to play in this city at that position because as soon as you play 2 or 3 bad games, you're the worst mother effer on the planet, and it comes down heavy. It's a former Bear exec. I don't think it's a coincidence the New York Jets and the Chicago Bears are the 2 teams that have the hardest time finding quarterbacks because you better have the guys who are wired right and talented. And he puts it this way, and we talk about this with Tyler, 33% split as to why it hasn't happened. Bad personnel, organizational dysfunction, pressure of the market.
I didn't know that the pressure. Look, I get it, like playing in Chicago, but the pressure of the market seemed like it. Like obviously that plays such a huge emphasis, right? I mean, like how that executive was talking, like you fuck up 3 games in, they're calling for your head already.
But I don't.
But I think the personnel evaluation's got to be.
I buy it to a degree. I mean, remember when Joe Madden came in with the Cubs? This was a team that had a 108-year, World Series drought. The Bears are going through a quarterback drought, and Joe Madden was exactly what the doctor ordered because the Cubs had some teams that could have competed and done things in the playoffs, and they'd melt down to the pressure of this 108-year drought that wasn't their fault. Just like Caleb Williams has got to overcome a quarterback curse that isn't his fault. But what was the Joe Madden quote that he'd always say? Never let the pressure exceed the pleasure. And in Chicago, at times, you've got to remind yourself of that constantly. So I do buy it to an extent. At the end of the day, the best players, the cream rises to the top, and they overcome any kind of pressure that the media gives them, the fans give them, or the fact that your organization picked Patrick Mahomes and you have to constantly be reminded of that every game. That's a lot of pressure for a guy like Mitch Trubisky or Justin Fields.
Well, and I like that you're bringing up Madden, because I think his greatest thing was taking pressure off the team and making things easy when
Ozzie Guillen, same thing. He took the pressure off the Sox by just bantering at the media all day and letting all the arrows come at him.
Exactly, but it mattered when they were good. Let's take the pressure off. So in the biggest, most intense moments, when you're down 3-1 in the World Series, or you're in a battle with the Dodgers or whatever, Madden was able to just keep things normal and let guys play free. The Bears' problem, if I was going to do the percentages, it's at least, to me, it's 60% evaluation of players. If they had gotten it right and drafted Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson before things went sideways, they would have had a better quarterback.
Right.
Okay, period.
No doubt.
So it is the evaluation. Now, I'll put 30% on coaching.
Right.
I'd almost put 35% on coaching.
Because Scotty had a tough time with the media, but guess what? He was a good-ass player, right? And he was able to overcome, any kind of shortcomings mentally that he had struggles with the media or whatever.
Scotty
Pippen.
Okay,
I apologize. Scotty Pippen,
okay.
yeah.
So,
all of them.
Sure.
Jordan didn't give a shit what you said about him.
I'll put 5% on the market. Like, dude.
Carm doesn't want to take any responsibility for his Tyson Bagent song.
No, I don't. It's just ridiculous. You're telling me that the reason that Justin Fields failed here was because of the fans and the media? Dude, they kissed his behind.
He went out
We
loved.
kissed his
I'd
behind.
love some kind of like video montage where like, oh, this city is tough. And then it cuts to Mark Carman singing about Tyson Bagent.
I mean, what are you talking about? The market. If you
and the fans chanted, "We want Fields."
Yeah,
when the fans are included in the market.
When Rex Grossman did one good thing, did the fans not love him? Was there a zillion Jay Cutler jerseys running around this town?
Right.
Did people not buy Eric Kramer jerseys? Come on, man. You do anything good here, we're gonna love you.
Well, it's interesting that he has that view, though. The executive that's talking about it, though, about the market, like. He had a really strong. I mean, that was a strong quote.
Jay's a good point to bring up too, though, because he didn't love the media. There were times where he'd get perturbed with fans. I witnessed both things firsthand, but at the same time, he was ultra talented, so he was able to overcome those things. If he had any issues, his talent rose up at times, regardless of those facts.
I just look. If you drafted the right quarterback, the fan base, it wouldn't matter at all. Putting a Bears exact thing that's the fans. Come on, man. That's insane. All right, we'll get to Tyler in a second. And first out, shout out to our friends, the Illinois pork producers. It is grilling season. Get your pork. People who are active need more protein than the average American. That would be everybody on the show with the exception of one. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and Dietitians of Canada and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram. Actually, maybe the most active guy around here, building pools and trying to take down a bird and everything else you're doing over there. You might get most active CHGO member.
You bought those goddamn owls, and in 2 days, these fucking birds have already realized the owls aren't real. I'm buying a gun.
I saw a dead bird walking into the office today. I'm like, Greg's got him.
Let me get back to the International Society of Sports Nutrition recommends that people who are all involved in a great fitness program or are interested in optimizing their health eat low-fat, high-quality source of protein, which include lean cuts of pork. Elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains. Celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork products produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product. It's paid for by the Illinois pork producers, generations of commitment.
Got to tell everybody about our friends Miller Lite. Sometimes things need to change. One thing that doesn't, the great taste of Miller Lite. It was the original light beer, and to this day, it's still the best one. Miller Lite has more of the taste you want and less of the stuff you don't. I know this weekend for my girlfriend's brother's wedding, I'll be drinking a lot of Miller Lite and having a great time, and great times in Miller Lite, they go together like Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams. And Miller Lite, it keeps it simple. Undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's a beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. No matter how your team changes, you can always enjoy the great taste of Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces.
Let's drink some Miller Lite. And let us talk with our new best friend, Tyler Dunne. And without further ado, golongtd.com. Become a subscriber right now. Get your life in order. Tyler Dunne wrote an absolutely phenomenal piece that we've been discussing, and he has been gracious enough to take the time to join us right now. Tyler, let's just get into it here. So Justin Fields was not the greatest teammate in the entire world. Like this, you're going at a beloved character, Tyler. Like, I'm going to let you talk about it because, you know, whenever I would say anything negative about Justin, people wanted to come to my house and find me. So, and I'm not trying to be super negative here, but about Justin, but it is interesting that one of the things you put in there was that he kind of viewed himself a little bit bigger than perhaps at least some in the locker room did. I thought that was super interesting if we jump off at the Fields part of your piece.
No doubt, and thanks so much for having me, fellas. I wish I could crack open one of those beers sitting on the table with you. Those are looking pretty good right now. But yeah, that was shocking to myself as well. Like, I really did not see that coming from afar. You know, I live here in Western New York. I'm not covering the Bears day to day, but it sure seemed like he was beloved in that locker room. And I'm sure, like, with DJ Moore and some of these players just have this effusive praise for Justin Fields. A lot of that is genuine, and a locker room is full of personalities. But yeah, I was told by people in the know that it isn't exactly what you would think, that he kind of carries himself with an air. One source described it as an undeserved air and not authentic, very surface level. I don't know if I put this in the story, but there was one Bear source who said, yeah, he'll get along great with Russ Wilson. They're very similar. You know, it's all very social media, surface level relationships, not authentic, not one-on-one, not that emotional intelligence that frankly you see out of a Caleb Williams. You know, there's a West Coast scout that has been around that program for a while. And he said that was one of the strengths of Caleb Williams. Like he really genuinely wants to get to know as many people as he can, from, you know, the receiver he's going to be throwing to in the red zone to the janitor. Even there was a scene at the combine where, you know, Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, is up there, and no, Caleb's goofing off. He's not doing anything in Indy. He's just kind of hanging out, asking him questions about being Jerry Rice's son. His coach, Dennis Simmons, said he did that to loosen up the teammate that was nervous in that moment. It's a small thing, but you hear stories like that a lot with Caleb Williams.
Before Nick Greg's jump in here, but Tyler's covered the NFL forever. Milwaukee Journal, Sentinel, Buffalo News, Bleacher Report, now doing his own thing. Congratulations on that. That's freaking awesome. Let's reward people like Tyler out there. GoLongTD.com. Get in there, Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Tyler, you said you wanted to have some beers. After I read your article, I needed to down a fifth of whiskey because it was sobering to read everything, but also a reminder, like, it's not just about Fields, but you kind of just laid the path of everything we've been through from the Ryan Pace, Mitch Trubisky era to here, and why those things have gone wrong. And we're all lost in the Caleb Williams sauce right now. We've done this time and again with quarterbacks and coaches, and we always want to see a pathway to Super Bowl greatness with every regime. But are the Bears going about this the right way? When I read your article, the thing I guess is the sobering reminder is this isn't a done deal. As great as Caleb Williams is as a prospect, is this coaching staff, to me, which is the biggest question, and you laid a lot of the failures of past coaching staffs here in Chicago with other quarterbacks, is this coaching staff, as it's constructed now, running it back with Matt Eberflus and bringing in a whole offensive coaching staff that I feel is like, you've got a defensive side. It's like the 85 Bears all over again. You've got the Ditka and you've got Buddy Ryan, and they're like, stay the F out of my way. Like, are they going about this the right way? Because Caleb Williams is such a big personality. Is he going to look at Shane Waldron as the guy that, hey, I got to listen to this guy, but I'm not going to listen to my head coach because he's on the other side of the ball? Like, those are my biggest concerns now after reading your piece.
That is absolutely the takeaway I hope people had. So thank you for saying that, because as potentially transcendent, generational, pick whatever word you want, Caleb Williams could be, the organizational dysfunction is real in Chicago. It's real in a lot of places. And as you kind of broke it down there, my mind went to the Buffalo Bills right here with Sean McDermott. You know, that 3-part series that we had in December, where you do have that talent in Josh Allen. You have somebody who is playing in his backyard, capable of any play on a football field, aligned with a head coach who is a defensive mind, who approaches the game very differently, very process-oriented, a little too serious. You know, Josh Allen, he's a 10-year-old kid that wants to make dick jokes and run through your face, is what one player told me. So, you know, it just, something's off. Something's off there. It's not Belichick, Brady, and, you know, they had their own thing, this push and pull dynamic that worked for them. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes goes to Buffalo with Rick Dennison, if he goes to Chicago, is he Patrick Mahomes? I think eventually he is, but so much of it is situation dependent, coach dependent. And I thought that it was so telling at the combine when Caleb Williams stood there and was asked, what is he hoping to learn from the Chicago Bears when he does meet with that team? And I think at that point, there was a story in ESPN that kind of broke the ice that he is open to being a Bear. But, you know, I was told that, you know, this is somebody, you know, you hear stake in ownership. You hear doesn't necessarily want to play in an open air stadium with the wind. I think the Bears needed to convince Caleb Williams more than Caleb Williams needed to convince the Bears that this can work, and justifiably so with everything they went through with Trubisky and Fields. And what did he say, guys? Do you want to win? Simple as that. Do you want to win? So true, so spot on, and we don't know yet, because I was very surprised that Kevin Warren, because they do have that voice now above the GM and head coach, which, by the way, that's an arranged marriage. They do have that voice that could have said, we've got a special talent coming in. Let's reset this thing and get Ben Johnson, whoever. I mean, there's tons of candidates they could have gone with, but they're running it back. And I don't want to kill Matt Eberflus. I don't know if Bill Belichick is getting anything out of Justin Fields, but it is absolutely a concern in 2024 and beyond.
Tyler, I found it fascinating just right in the beginning of the first article where it kind of broke it down into thirds of why the team has been dysfunctional. You had the bad personnel evaluation, organizational dysfunction, and then pressure of the market. As you're kind of talking to people within, you know, the Bears organization, people outside of it, and kind of going into those thirds essentially, where do you feel like the Bears are at in terms of trying to figure that out so they're not in the same exact cycle they've been in and year out?
You know, I think that if I were to divide those three up, I'd probably give a little more credence to evaluation. At the end of the day, what did Mitchell Trubisky do in Pittsburgh? Not a hell of a lot. I don't think Justin Fields is really going to do anything in Pittsburgh now himself. So that probably does deserve, 40, 50%. But that pressure is real. I mean, you guys are in Chicago. You can feel it. This is a fan base of great-grandfathers, grandfathers, fathers, sons that have lived through the same BS. Quarterback to quarterback to quarterback, wasting elite defenses. It's nuts, man. I mean, I'm thinking back to Jim Miller on a 13-3 Bears team, right? Rex Grossman turning the ball over 4 times in the rain. I mean, Jay Cutler, you know, sitting out on the sideline. That has built up a callousness and a justifiable anger, I think, with everything going on with this team. That, look, it's not on Caleb Williams. He had nothing to do with any of that. Even Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus to an extent. But it's real. You're not going to escape it. If Caleb Williams struggles, if he goes out there, they lose to the Packers, and a playoff berth is on the line, the division's on the line, and he thinks about sobbing uncontrollably anywhere, he's going to get killed. He's going to get absolutely killed. But I think he knows it, and he'll find a way to kind of harness those emotions in ways that are good. He does strike me as an emotionally intelligent dude who just kind of gets it.
I mean, if you don't play well, the boos are going to come. But like Justin Fields did not play well a ton, and he left here his last game with fans going crazy. Keep Justin. I mean, the whole and obviously the Bears decided to move on. So it depends. He connected with the fan base a lot more than say Mitch did, and certainly a lot more than Jay did. He probably had half and half. But what I'm leaning into here, what you teed up. The Bears coaching staff, reading your piece, could learn, you better be aligned with the dude. Because if you look back down to Mitch, when that thing started going, you had splintering coaching staff. You had the same thing with Justin. We heard little rumors that Luke Getsy would have rather stuck with Tyson Bagent than play Justin Fields. So to me, that was like a huge takeaway. If I'm the Bears, I'm looking at this. You better be unified behind this dude for a zillion reasons.
Right. And I get it. Trubisky, maybe Brad Childress is doing the team a service, like pointing out these flaws that are going to be there forever. And you better cut bait now. You can't hitch your wagon to this guy. But I don't know. If you're Matt Nagy, if you're that coaching staff, and you believed like you believed in those February meetings, they believed in Mitch Trubisky more than the personnel staff did that drafted the guy. Remember, the coaches inherited him. That's where this team's always been misaligned anyways. But to just flip, to just turn in one off season because Brad Childress is showing you test scores that the Bears hadn't even used before, personality stuff, how he's reading the field, all that. I don't know. You can't go into a time machine and draft Patrick Mahomes or Deshaun Watson. It would have been smart for the Bears to just get what they can with that quarterback at that time and be aligned because they kind of fired themselves, right? Like, and that's the problem here. You're not doing yourselves any favors by having these fighting, Dave Ragone and Mike Furry not even talking to each other. It goes on and on.
But what's your understanding? Like the craziest thing that I read in here, there's a lot of crazy things, but Mitch Trubisky's all in. He wants to meet with Matt Nagy, sets up the meeting, shows up in his office, and Nagy no-shows? I mean, I don't know if you can throw more background around that. Like, how is that possible? That's completely insane.
Completely insane. I mean, this is right after the season, but he was out. I mean, he was done. He had mentally moved on from Mitch Trubisky, and it did start, before the season even started. It started in training camp when you've got average mundane practices where not much is really happening, but players could see it. People in the front office could see it. This was a head coach and a coaching staff kind of turning on the quarterback. And who's the first person to realize that a head coach isn't believing in the quarterback? It's the quarterback. Maybe Mitch Trubisky should be mentally tough enough to plow through all of this, but man, he realized that he was losing supporters on his own staff early. 3-4 games into it when I believe he was hurt in Vegas and had a little time to reflect. That's when people around him could kind of see, man, his confidence, it's shot. They tried what they could. They had psychologists and mental coaches. They had a lot of resources for the quarterback, and I think he tapped into those resources. This is a quarterback who, and I've sat down with him before myself at Bleacher Report for 2 different stories. He goes out of his way to research leadership. He tries so hard to be a good leader. He's reading The Captain Class by Sam Walker and developing a relationship with the author and breaking down Tim Duncan's mannerisms with teammates on clip. He's trying so hard that I think he struggled, and then he really struggled with everything falling apart as it got worse and worse and worse. And he realized the head coach wasn't in his corner anymore, and he didn't draft him. I think that was his attempt as a quarterback to let's sit down, let's figure this out, let's see what can work. And for the coach not to even show up, he swiped left on Mitch Trubisky at that point.
Well, you mentioned the Raiders game, and that actually was at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Bears are going to be going back there this year. And I can remember Harry Heastan and Matt Nagy losing it on each other on the sidelines. So you started to see that fracture. Mm-hmm. You could visibly see it on the sidelines. You could see it with the way they were talking about Mitch in, the press conferences and things of that nature. So the thing that I always take exception to is once a player is gone, then the smear campaign, or AKA CYA, cover your ass mode, starts to go into play. So you talk to some of these coaches, and you mentioned in your article, like, hey, they all loved Mitch. And then later down the road, they all switched on him. And when they went into their meetings, they gave him a red grade, one grade shorter than the top grade you can give somebody. So at what point do coaches have to take responsibility for themselves as well? You're never going to be handed a perfect hand. And you mentioned in your article the Ravens have changed the way they do things with Lamar Jackson a few different times. We've seen Jim Harbaugh do some things with a guy like Colin Kaepernick. Andy Reid turns Alex Smith into something that was once considered a bust. So at what point do coaches have to stop making excuses, hey, I don't have the perfect hand dealt to me, and do what you can to get the most out of what you have?
Hey, man, that's a great point. I totally agree. And that's the fine line. Who's talented enough, athletic enough, physically gifted enough to change everything you think about offensive football for? And I think that's a big reason why Lamar Jackson fell. How the Ravens passed on him. They took Hayden Hurst in the first round before they took Lamar Jackson. And they completely changed their offense on the fly. They did it again with Todd Monken. I think that they realized, and they probably realized over time, that he's got enough as a passer, he's effective enough in the pocket to win long-term with. That was a big reason he won MVP this last season. He developed as a passer. Is he, picking you apart throughout the course of a game? Probably not. What makes him special is that athleticism. But there's a lot more there as a passer than you've seen in Justin Fields as a passer. And I think that there's a willingness in Lamar Jackson to evolve, to win from the pocket. We've heard it from him time and time again that he wants to be able to win from the pocket. He gets it. I don't think Justin Fields gets it. He told the world 2 weeks into the season, I'm F it. I'm going to do my thing. I don't want to be robotic. I just want to go. And you can see his point of view. If he has special gifts and he wants to use it, he doesn't want to feel neutered and quarantined in a pocket. But good luck making a living that way. You'll be a YouTube highlight reel quarterback here and there, but you're not going to sustain that.
Well, I agreed with your article. We all applauded him for his honesty and standing up for himself. Yeah, but Bears the scary part,
Bears media and Bears fans didn't get it either, Tyler. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's so great that he's saying that." It's like, no. And I at least was like 3/4 of the don't believe it thing. So I don't want to give myself too much credit. Mm-hmm. I'm like, saying a great thing. The dude just wants to play street ball. It's not going to work.
Right.
It's not how you win.
Yeah, you had essentially admitted I can't run your offense. And to what we just talked about, coaches, coordinators, they're not adjusting to you. You have to adjust to what they have in place, which I think is the other part of the reason why the Bears had such trouble finding a suitor to trade for him.
Yeah, and Tyler, I'm curious too, when you're hearing all these things about Justin that are going against what I think a lot of people know about him in the media, that he was a good teammate. What's just your process as a writer or reporter when you hear something that's completely different from what we've all heard, in terms of just trying to decipher what's fact, what's fiction? Obviously, you're talking to reliable sources, but how do you go about that to distinguish what you're ultimately going to write and put in this article?
I love that question because that's what you really have to filter through as a reporter on something potentially explosive like that, because I'm hearing the same thing you guys are, that Justin Fields is an incredible leader and the intangibles are the strength of Justin Fields. That's probably the number one reason those fans are chanting, "We want Fields." It's like, you passed our test. You're in. The hazing ritual is over. You've made it. But man, I guess it comes down to trusting people. And I get it. Something like that may be anonymous, and I get the skepticism if somebody reads it and wants to dismiss it. It's on the reader to kind of decide what to put credence to and what not to. I'll obviously stand by everything I've written, back to the Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy story at Bleacher Report, to everything here in Buffalo with Sean McDermott. It's to kind of really peek behind the curtain. I'm okay with, obviously, I wish everybody went on the record with all this stuff. Don't get me wrong. That would be ideal. But I would rather learn who to trust and who not to trust, and write off of who I do trust to give the reader the truth, right? To give him a bigger picture, because I feel like we're only getting at a podium what the team wants to put out, right? It's going to be sanitized. It's going to be kid gloves. It's going to be poll tested, massaged and reworked and worked. And it's not always the truth. There's somebody really plugged in with the Bears who went on a rant on Justin Fields' leadership, and he can't believe that he's been praised as this incredible leader based off of the stories he has heard. So it wasn't a part of the story I tried to emphasize a ton. It's kind of buried in there. Honestly, I wish I got more. That would be worth a follow-up to really dive into his leadership style a little bit more. But yeah, it was described as very surface level. And as somebody said, him and Russell Wilson are going to get along great because they're really similar.
Real quick before you jet, just to fast forward it now to Caleb Williams. It's a lot of Justin Fields talk, but in terms of Caleb Williams, you laid out how Mitch Trubisky was trying so hard to be this perfect leader. Justin Fields had this way of wanting to carry himself and try to walk this certain walk through Hallis Hall. When you look at Caleb Williams and the way he wants to try to present himself, and he's definitely has a lot of moxie when it comes to work in the media, how do you have any concerns that he can do this in a genuine way where it's not forced and he's trying to be too perfect and can just kind of let all of this come to him in a natural way?
I think you just hit on the important word there. It is natural with Caleb Williams. There's a West Coast scout that I really do trust that's been around that program a lot. And I tried to press him off of this Fields stuff. I even told him what I heard about Justin Fields as a leader and how much it surprised me. And he said that is the exact opposite effect that you're going to get out of Caleb Williams behind the scenes. That his type of leadership, it's not really rah-rah. He can do that if you want it. It really is behind the scenes. It's real. He wants to develop authentic relationships. It's not just going to be, a Rolodex and ranking who's most important that you should be keeping in touch with. I don't think he's putting a mask on and pretending to be somebody he's not, because it's easy to fall in love with the quarterback that we know nothing about on the professional level. But people who have been around him, who would be very critical, even his coach, Dennis Simmons, this is a straight shooter. This is somebody that's not going to feed a bunch of BS, because he knows his reputation is always on the line. If scouts and coaches are asking him about prospects, he insists this is somebody that just wants to win, and he'll do whatever it takes to win. And that means being a true leader behind the scenes.
Tyler, congrats on the piece. Congrats on all the work you're doing. You're going to pop on out of here, so thank you for making time for us.
Good luck with Bears Twitter.
This was awesome, guys. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. Anytime. I'd love to come on.
See you, Tyler. We'll do it again for sure. Take care.
See you.
And there was our conversation with Tyler Dunne. Hope you enjoyed it. Ton of ground to cover there. We could probably do, as Braggs was saying, a 3-hour podcast just on the piece. But busy show today. Tory Taylor is coming up, the Bears punter. And yes, I do own to Tory that we shouldn't have drafted you, Tory.
That'd be funny to see.
That was slightly awkward, but I had to, that was fair, right? I had to. Yeah. I mean, I did quickly say right after it, you'll see that, by the way, I want to be your best friend, and I think that you're going to be great and all that. But I did own it. And just a second here, because I've seen, we always have a ton of Lions fans in the chat. We're gonna have a Jared Goff. We're gonna have a Jared Goff celebration coming up here in a second. But first, it is getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind for the health of the planet and for the well-being of all of us who share it.
That's right. Even trying to share with loser Lions fans. The electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense.
So what should business owners do, Gregory?
They should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Yes, sir. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Check out ComEd, and you also got to check out Prize Picks. It's the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan. From baseball to basketball to League of Legends and everything in between. And Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entry stays in play even if one of your players gets injured for football and basketball games. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays alive. It's super convenient. And honestly, you could just scroll through the app and look at all the different entries and different lines. And I just like making different entries. And for you, you have to check it out yourself. And you could do that by going to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use that code CHGO for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
All right, so the Detroit Lions, who, let's give them some credit. I know it's painful for Bears fans, but
NFC Championship, man.
They have risen up from the depths.
They got lucky.
That's fine. They knocked out Aaron Rodgers. They ended his career.
Then they choked in the playoffs.
And in that year they didn't make the playoffs. And
I'm sorry.
And then last year they looked like they were going to go to the Super Bowl, and it didn't happen, which was kind of humorous and kind of depressing all at the same time. And now they have signed their quarterback, Jared Goff, to a 4-year, $212 million extension, 170 guaranteed. $53 million a year. That is second in the NFL. Second behind Joe Burrow.
Second.
And here's the thing. Jared Goff last year, top 4 in the NFL in passing yards, 4,575.
Right.
Top 4 in passing touchdowns, 30. The Lions, 3rd in yards per game. They won the division. NFC Championship game, the whole thing. They had no choice but to pay Jared Goff. This is what they had to do.
No doubt.
But that is the celebration for Bears fans. Because when you don't have the guy, you have to pay, not the guy, because you can't. You're worried about going worse.
They gave Ferrari money to a Chevy Trax.
Well, hold on. Don't. The Chevy Trax has its own Ferrari in it.
I mean, the Chevy Trax will get you where you want to go. You know, it gets the job done
in an enjoyable way.
High grade.
Don't knock on
it's
my
a high grade vehicle. It's not hating on the Chevy Trax. You know, it's a respectable vehicle.
Just overpaid.
But you paid a lot off the line for it.
Yeah,
you didn't get the discount from Ray.
Do you guys know what?
You did not get the discount from Ray.
Yeah, no, you did not. And you should. Jared Goff, his career record against the Chicago Bears, 5-4, 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a rating of 84.7, been sacked 18 times. You're telling me you're paying all that money for a guy that's one game above 500 against the Bears, who have been pretty non-competitive for, a while now.
You ever look at his home road splits?
Yeah.
Two very different quarterbacks. If you look at those numbers.
I remember, and look, the Bears beat Jared Goff and made him look. They should have beat him twice last year. Let's be completely honest.
Yep.
So that's who the Lions decided to pay.
But he's a consistent quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
If Caleb Williams puts up the numbers that Jared Goff put up last year, I will be sprinting naked down Lakeshore Drive. Let's call that for what it is.
Correct. But I think logically, we can say that Jared Goff's best days are most likely behind him.
Right, but to your point, they had to pay him. So Hendon Hooker, is a project. He's not necessarily the future, of your team. They don't have a quarterback in waiting, and you're in win now mode.
Right, and you listen. When you pay the guy, you want him to be the guy. Joe Burrow at the top of the food chain. The Cincinnati Bengals are paying that $55 million all day long. Goff's at $53. Justin Herbert and the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers regret that at all. $52.5 million. Lamar Jackson. Was he worth it at the time? He's a 2-time MVP. But do the Ravens want to be paying him $52 million a year right now? Maybe, but maybe not. Do the Eagles want to be paying Jalen Hurts $51 million.
I don't think so.
$51 million for Jalen Hurts.
No.
Russell Wilson is being paid $48.5 million. Nightmare.
That's terrible.
Kyler Murray's being paid $46 million.
Whew, this is your Kyler.
Deshaun Watson is being paid $46 million.
That's the worst contract in
I
sports.
think it just puts a spotlight on what a great spot the Bears are in right now.
That's what I'm trying to underline here. Patrick Mahomes, $45 million right now, tied for 9th in the league. I mean,
Value.
so a bargain. Josh Allen, $43 million.
Value.
10th, also a bargain. Kirk Cousins has got a $100 million contract. His number this year is 45. I'm not sure how that's all going to work out coming off an ACL thing. My point is this, that, look, if this goes the way you want it to go, you're going to be very happy to pay Caleb Williams the money. It's going to...
Yeah, no doubt.
You're just going to be like, okay.
You want to be in that situation.
We'll give you your $68 million or your $72 million, whatever the hell it's going to be at that point.
But then it takes being a much more creative GM
right.
to make sure your team stays just as competitive.
Right. But the
way the Chiefs have won back-to-back Super Bowls after letting Tyreek Hill go.
And by the way, we have a great conversation with Tory Taylor on a very busy day on the show coming up in a second here. But that contract, like what I tweeted out yesterday, was like, there's no world where that is bad for the Bears. I get it. I get what Detroit had to do. I'm not saying they were wrong to do it. This is a guy that is high functioning, but no one is going to say that he's elite. No one is.
He puts up really good numbers
He's
too.
Kirk
He
Cousins.
does. Yeah, I mean, like, it's similar.
Everyone thought that was going to be the comp for a Jared Goff deal. Obviously, Jared Goff is younger than Kirk Cousins, but Jared Goff goes out and he gets almost as much guaranteed money as Kirk Cousins gets total money. Kirk Cousins at 180, I believe.
That's a good point
crazy.
too. Yeah.
And I guess the next domino to fall, and then we'll get to Tory Taylor, but the next domino to fall now is if he's getting paid that much, Jared Goff, how much is Jordan Love going to get from the Packers?
But that's another good thing. Let's talk honestly here. The guy Jordan Love looked great last year.
He's ruining my life.
Yeah.
He's
good.
I think he's going to continue to get better logically, like any sane person would say. And he's going to be. The Packers are going to pay him because they have to.
Right.
But they're going to be paying a lot of money to a guy that hopefully, if things go right, Caleb is going to be better than.
And they paid him, and it seems like he looks the part, but at the same time, they only got a 1-year litmus test to provide that for themselves to then pay an insane amount of money they're going to give him, and they will give it to him, rightfully so. I wouldn't say that that's the wrong move.
For the next 3 years, in theory, the Bears will have a better quarterback that they're paying less for than who they're competing against in the division.
Right. That's the hope.
That's the hope.
That's the guarantee. That is what's happening.
Well, after Ty Dunne, hit me over the head with a bottle of whiskey with his article.
But that's first of all, don't play Ty Dunne. Second of all, that is
it was very good.
It is different. It does what happened with Matt Nagy and Brad Childress and Ryan Pace has nothing to do with what's going to happen now.
That's true.
Though some of it did. Whatever. We've already got into it.
Yeah.
It's just at the same time, the one thing I'll say to the piece, one last thought, and I was going to say it for the end of the show, but like people are calling it like a Justin Fields hit piece. Read the article. The article is about the Bears process from Mitch to Justin to Caleb. So calling it a hit piece is false. It's a landscape of the organization, and if people want to pull quotes from the stuff that had to do with Justin to get a reaction to get you to read it, that's on you as far as the clickbait is concerned. But it's a very good article laying out how it all got to this point as an organization, not just specific players.
If you gave me and Braggs 6 years, we couldn't write what this dude did. This guy's
it was so well
respect to me and Braggs.
written. Yeah, well written.
I didn't take you putting you in there, Nick, because you got those writing chops.
I about passed out reading that amount of words.
You went outside on our balcony to make sure you got it all done, which you did.
And for the record, I'm sure Gregory has a little bit more to cover in the entire piece. There's no way you finished that in the time that you had, unless you're a way better reader than you.
Have you ever seen that video of the guy that he claims to be the world's fastest reader, and he has the book? He goes, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can busy day here, but I don't want to make you wait any longer. We sat down with Tory Taylor, most likable guy going. He's going to be the greatest punter in the history of the NFL, damn it. And he joined us on CHGO.
All right, we are very excited to bring in the Bears' new punter, Tory Taylor, from Iowa, but also from Australia. Tory, thanks so much for jumping on with us today. We are very excited. We actually have listeners and viewers from Australia, so I know that part of our viewership, which I'm not saying is super huge, but they do exist, and I know they're very excited to have you on. So thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. What is it, about 7:30 in the morning there? So no, it's very exciting. Thanks very much for having me.
You signed your new deal, got the paper, right? And then you sent a message to your parents and they were sleeping. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I signed it at 8 a.m. So it would have been 11 p.m. Saturday night. And yeah, my parents go to sleep my dad goes to sleep probably like 7 o'clock and my mum probably 9. So yeah, they were well and truly asleep for sure.
So I want to start with, just going from Australian rules football and this transition you make to American football. You're coming, across the world. Obviously there were some hiccups with COVID too that we could get into at some point, but I'm just let's stick to the football side of it first, more so than, we get into your journey. Just how different is it? How much of a pipeline is this that's sort of developed here, especially with punters? Just how does that all go down when you make the decision in your life? Like, all right, I want to make this transition to American football with the goal of making it to the NFL.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, when I set out and started punting, which was 5 years ago exactly almost, it was July 2019, I never had any idea that it would certainly take me to the NFL. And that was, it was obviously a dream, when you play any sport, you want to try and make it to the highest level. Everyone's competitive in that aspect. But yeah, I joined Pro Kick Australia in the middle of 2019, and I kind of knew that Johnny Smith and Nathan Chapman, who run Pro Kick down in Melbourne, Australia, they've had a pretty good, track record of sending guys over and doing pretty well in college. And I think by the time I joined, they'd saved just over $150 million in scholarship money. And I think that's towards the $200 million mark now, which is really, really impressive. And they've sent guys, whether it be FBS, FCS, Div 2, a whole range of schools. And I kind of looked into it a little bit and I thought, well, I'm really not enjoying what I'm doing now. So I kind of thought, well, I think I'm pretty good at kicking the ball. And then I thought, I don't really have anything to lose. And my dad said, don't be one of those guys, that's sitting on the couch or in the pub in 20 or 25 years time saying, oh, would have, should have, could have. He's like, you either do it or you don't. It's pretty plain and simple. And I thought, well, yeah, like I just said, I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. So I'll just give it a crack and see where life takes me. And here I am on the biggest podcast in the world. And
that's right.
Exactly right, baby.
You're right, Tory.
Yeah,
you said on Saturday, Tory, that when you do get opportunities to punt, it gives you an opportunity to control the game. You have that opportunity. Where does that mentality come from, though, where you feel like, hey, this is my chance to really dictate what can happen on this very specific play?
Yeah, I think life's just easier when you're in control. You know what I mean? People always say, like, just worry about what you can control. And at that specific period of time of the game, I can control things how I want to control. And at the end of the day, I just love winning. So I just really want to put the team in the best position. And I think at the end of the day, when you're in control, life's just a whole lot easier. So I may as well control things how I want to control them. And I'm fortunate enough to be one of very few positions on the field that gets to do that. But like Caleb said a couple of weeks ago, hopefully won't be punting too much. So might not get to see a whole lot of that, which is certainly a good thing.
Well, and so going off of that, Tory, I got to come clean here. When the Bears picked you, and it was absolutely nothing to do with you, I called you punt god. I love the University of Iowa. I love Australia. You sound like the greatest. I hope you have the best career of all time. But I'm like, a punter in the 4th round? This is, come on, man. The Bears have other needs. And so now you're going to become my favorite player on the team because that's just that's the way this is going to go. But were you surprised that the Bears? Did you have any inkling that they were going to pick you that high?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'd heard from a lot of teams kind of at the Senior Bowl and the Combine, but a lot of teams keep their cards pretty close to their chest. And I know there's probably a few people out there. Obviously, you were one of them, Mark, that was a little bit surprised. But I will say, if I was on another team, I'd be certain to make sure that I make the other teams pay. And obviously, going pretty early in the draft is pretty special. But it's worked out perfectly coming to the Bears. You know, it's 3 hours down the highway from Iowa City. It's a great city, and you know everyone's kind of been talking about the Bears probably the last couple of months because everyone kind of knew Caleb was coming here. So I feel like, I mean, I might be a bit biased, and at the end of the day, I don't know any different because I've only ever been a Chicago Bear in the NFL. But it seems like it's a pretty exciting time to be part of this organization, which I'm excited for.
So it was interesting hearing you talk on Saturday too about just the difference in the football, and obviously in Australia the football is bigger. You talked about how it's like easier to kick because it's bigger. It's a bigger sweet spot. How much of an adjustment was that for you? Just coming over. First of all, the adjustment from coming from Australia to Iowa has to be a big adjustment just to begin with. Let's start with that. But then when it comes to kicking the ball, just how long did it take you to kind of get used to it? And then when did you realize, like, I can spin this thing? I mean, I saw your kicks the other day on Saturday. Like, that thing's flying through the air, spiral when you need to go deep. And then obviously you have all these highlights from college too, where it's looking like a lob wedge that's just spinning on the green.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Some people think that it's been easy my whole life, and it's one thing that I just kind of picked up and went with. But the first few months at Pro Kick, I was shanking them all over the place just because you're really just trying to change the whole, I guess. I mean, I could get into it in a really nerdy way, but you guys, there's not that many.
No, let's do it.
Look,
I coached special teams in high school, so I'm ready for this. Let's hear it. I want to go.
I guess with the Aussie rules ball, you kind of hold it more so in the middle of your body. Whereas, that was something I'd done for 20 years. So to be able to like change that in such a short period of time, it obviously took quite a while, and you change like the whole mechanics and everything like that goes into kicking. So that was certainly an adjustment, but I was fortunate enough to be working with, the best punting coach in the world in Nathan Chapman. So that certainly helped. And I owe a lot of credit to him. Even just the gains when I finished my college career, and I think it was the 1st of January, the gains I made from then up until the Combine were probably the biggest gains that I've made throughout my whole career. Just being able to have him come out for what was about 9-10 days in California, something just really, really clicked. And I remember saying, like, man, I wish you told me this like 4 years ago. Those shanks may not have happened. So I really feel like the last few months I really gained a lot of ground in terms of punting. But I think the best thing is it's like golf. You're never perfect. Like, you never ever hit the perfect shot. So yeah, the ceiling is certainly really high, and there's still a lot more development in my game, which I'm excited for. And it's one thing that I'm never ever going to be perfect at, which is great. That's exactly what I want.
Do you play a lot of golf? I noticed you got the Masters gear on. Do you play a lot of golf too?
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, if I was to have a handicap, it's probably around the 14 to 16 mark. So I'm not too bad. I can bomb the driver and I putt okay, but around the greens, I'm not too good. So I might need a little short game lesson, but I kind of keep the wedge shots throughout on the football field, if that makes sense.
Just hit the ball big. You don't need to just pick up by the green, get back in the cart, have a beer, move it along. That's my golf.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Tory, for maybe some of those Bears fans that were skeptical of the pick initially, if you had to tell them to go and watch one of your games from Iowa to show exactly how you can control a game, which one would you go tell them to watch?
Probably the Wisconsin game. I don't want to sound like cocky or arrogant or anything like that, but there's probably quite a few that you could go back. There's probably the Wisconsin game this past season, Penn State 2021, Iowa State 2021, South Dakota 2022. Yeah, there's certainly been quite a few. And not that it's a good thing, but from a personal standpoint, I was fortunate enough to punt quite a lot at Iowa, so that certainly helps my case as well.
What was it
So
about that Wisconsin game? Because we've heard that Wisconsin game get brought up, and the guy
Well,
right
mostly
above
by
me
me,
yeah.
because I'm a Badger, Tory, and
Mhm.
I watching that game. I mean, you don't sound arrogant at all. Like, you pretty much controlled that football game. Like, I'm not even kidding. For a punter to control a football game, just the way that game was going, and there wasn't a lot of points, obviously, like, you made a huge difference in that football game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things I've always kind of gone into games is if we're struggling, I've always just thought, well, like, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I've always kind of just gone into that. I've always had that mindset when I go out to punt, and I just love punting, you know what I mean? And always loved away games because I feel like punting is probably one of those positions where people don't really pay much attention to, but I feel like that day they probably did. So, it was kind of good to send a few Wisconsin fans away with a few sad faces, and it was pretty quiet early on, so that was good fun.
thank you.
That was me.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm not sorry at all.
I love it.
You shouldn't be. Hey, I also, when it comes to adjustments, I mean, first of all, my guess is one of the things that NFL teams felt very confident about is like, look, if this guy came from a totally different style of football, came over to Iowa, you mentioned some of the adjustments you had to make, and you're still getting better. I don't imagine the adjustment from college to the NFL is going to be terribly hard for you. But that being said, I mean, there are a lot of differences. Obviously, just size, speed, the rush coming at you, things like that. But also Iowa, like, you guys ran sort of a unique punt scheme where, you got three guys in the backfield, sort of offset. You can move it left and right. In the NFL, it's pretty much just like pro style punting for the most part. Does that make any difference to you at all as you're making this adjustment? Or for you, it's just still about the snap and the kick?
Yeah, it's all about, for me, it's all about having short steps, clean hands, and making maximum contact with the ball. And that's something that I've always focused on. And you can put people wherever they want, but at the end of the day, I'm not in control of those people, and that's going to be up to the coaches to determine where certain people should go. But my job is really just to catch it cleanly, put it where I want it to be, and make maximum contact with the ball. And when you do those things, usually things take care of themselves.
Not to be braggadocious, Tory, but what can you do with the football that most punters don't do?
It's probably, I mean, it's hard to compare to guys in the NFL because they've played games and they're so experienced, and it's the best of the best doing what they do. But I think probably what separated me from other guys, especially in this class, was more so just my ability to probably do it in games. And I think that's what a lot of coaches paid attention to, because I like to use a few golf analogies, but, everyone's really good on the driving range, myself included. And then you get out on the golf course and it's a completely different game. And I think one thing that separates me from the other guys is just being able to do it in games. And, some people are like, oh, the Bears have got 4 preseason games, but I love that because I just love playing in games. You know what I mean? Because that's where I guess winning and losing counts. You don't really win or lose games. Well, in my opinion, games aren't won on the practice field, but they can certainly be lost. But yeah, like I said, I love playing in games, and I feel like that's when the stakes are at the highest. I kind of just love that pressure, if that makes sense.
How did rookie minicamp go for you?
Yeah, it was great. I punted on Friday and Saturday, and I loved it. It was just, obviously you meet guys and everyone's kind of in the same position. No one's been here before. So yeah, it was just a really enjoyable experience. To be completely honest, I'm loving being a Chicago Bear in simple terms. It's really worked out perfectly. And I was a little nervous before my punt period on Friday. It was the first time I was going to be punting, I guess, in an NFL practice. And, Coach Hightower comes up to me. He's like, man, you're an effing Chicago Bear. Like, let's go. And I was kind of like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Like, let's go. I'm really lucky to be here. And, I'm just grateful for, I guess, all the decisions that went into getting me here.
I could just see the relationship between you and Hightower. Like, it's blossomed. It's so expressive in how he was talking about you, how you were talking about him in his press conferences. But with Coach Hightower, with the confidence he has in you, how does that make your job? How do you envision it'll make your job a little easier, knowing that you have a coach that just has all the confidence?
I think I said this the other day in my press conference, but NFL coaches kind of like to manipulate people and really, this is the way. And if you're not going to do it, then I'll get someone else that can do it. Whereas Coach Hightower, he's just like, well, what's your best ball? Like, I want you to be you. We drafted you for a reason. So we want to get the best out of you. And I think when coaches really believe in someone and just let them be them and just let them be their authentic self, I really feel like there's quite the correlation between that and maximal performance on the field. And, he's probably said it to me a dozen times since I got here. He's just like, be you. And I think that's one thing that Coach Woods at Iowa always told me too, is just be yourself, go out there and have fun and do what you do best. And I think that's really when I perform at my best.
Yeah, Tory, we had him on the show last week for an extended conversation. And, I think another thing I've come to appreciate about Coach Hightower is he's not rigid in his ways, kind of speaking to the same thing you were just talking about, find your best ball, kick that. But even when it comes to this new kickoff rule that's been put in this year in the NFL, Coach Hightower was heavily involved in all that. And, it was interesting. I know I asked you about this on Saturday in the press conference, but just hearing him being open-minded to the idea of you maybe being involved in that, because the kickoff's going to be so different now that ball placement and where you put it is just going to be more important than ever compared to just, distance and hang time. How much experience do you have kicking off the tee? Because we didn't really talk about that too much. And how quickly do you think you can figure that out if you haven't done it a ton?
To answer your question, I have absolutely zero experience in a game. I've tried it a handful of times at practice, and I'm not too bad. I mean, I'm not hitting like 4 or 5 kickoffs like the pros do. But now this rule is probably going to help me a lot. So whether it'll be off the tee or a couple of drop kicks just to screw a few teams over will be certainly fun. But probably like I said the other day, whatever the coaches want me to do, and they think it's in the best interest of helping the team, then I'm all for it.
All right, so I'm going to give my ignorance here. If you drop kick it, does that mean it's going to go further than a standard punt?
No, because it's harder to make, hit the sweet spot of the ball.
Okay.
And you're kicking it at a lower point, so it's not going to go as high. But
so it's more of a directional play, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And from a legality standpoint as well, the ball has to touch the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never really been in love with the drop kick too much, but because of all the variables involved in it. But it is interesting. I did want to go back to just your. I want to make sure the fans all can appreciate your experience of coming over, because I know it. Not only do you make that jump to Iowa, but it happened to be during COVID, right? And how. You had to quarantine, I think, on both ends of the trip. You got in late because of it. And then meanwhile, I know just from reading a couple stories, it was really hard for your parents to come over too, right? To come see you. Like that took a year or two.
Yeah. So it was late July or early August 2020. I remember my coach rang me and said, hey, you can go to Sydney this weekend and we're going to try and get your visa. And I said, well, try, or have you got the visa? He's like, well, no, all we can do is try. And I said, well, I don't want to really risk sitting in a hotel for 2 weeks with no guarantee that I'm going to get a visa. But then I thought, after a few conversations with my parents, I thought, well, I'm just sitting around doing nothing during COVID anyway, because it was really tough restrictions in Melbourne where I'm from. So I thought, well, I'll go try it. And then I remember I got on the plane from Melbourne to Sydney, got to Sydney airport, and they said, what are you here for? And I said, I'm trying to get a visa. And they're like, well, that's not a valid reason. You're going to be on the next flight back to Melbourne. So I'm sitting at the airport thinking, I'm going back to Melbourne. And obviously my parents were happy because, especially my mum, I'm coming back home. But then a couple of hours later, the lady came back and she's like, all right, yeah, you guys are all good. Get on the bus and we'll take you to the hotel. And we were in a room for 2 weeks, and you could not leave the room. And if you did, your 2 weeks would start again. So you obviously didn't want to leave the room. So yeah, and that was, I remember a few days in, this Big Ten season was cancelled. So I thought, oh great, now I'm really here for nothing. Like I'm not going there for school. I'm going across the other side of the world to play football. I could have just done school here. So that was a little frustrating. And then I was about a week in. John, one of my coaches back home, I don't know how he did it, but he managed to get us all visa appointments the following week. So once we got out of the hotel on a Monday, we had our visa appointments on the Tuesday. We got our visas, and we all flew out on the Saturday morning. So it was a pretty crazy experience. It was all 7 of us, obviously all in separate rooms throughout the hotel. I think I was lucky that one of my best friends, Charlton, he was in the room next to me, so we could talk to one another on the balcony. So it was pretty crazy. It was really just the little things, like just sitting and having. I reckon we had 4 or 5 coffees a day because there wasn't much else to do. We'd just sit on the balcony and talk to one another and solve the world's problems.
I mean, what were you watching? Was it you had to go Jordan documentary, right? You were all into The Last Dance? Please say yes.
No, I'm actually not really a basketball fan, funnily enough. Yeah. So I don't know what I think I was watching Yellowstone, and then I was watching a lot of golf, just YouTube. Really just trying to just calling a lot of people. I mean, my FaceTime log would have been absolutely crazy, and it's a pretty whirlwind experience. But I feel like it really helped me, to be honest, just prepare for what was coming. And I thought, well, if I can get through 2 weeks of sitting in a hotel by myself, I can do anything.
Did you know? Sorry, I'm just curious here. Did you know that you were not going to be NIL eligible because you were coming from Australia?
Yeah, I always knew that. I didn't, but people. I mean, it's obviously different in the NFL, but I saw it firsthand with a few players at Iowa. Guys just worrying about money too much, and their performance starts to decline. Whereas at the end of the day, financial gain is a byproduct of performance on the field, and at the end of the day, it's what happens on the field that counts. Everything else is just, like I said, a byproduct. But I never really worried about money or anything like that in college.
When I saw that you couldn't make the money, but how could I give back? And you did, I believe, Count the Kicks, which it was started by, I guess, 5 moms who lost stillborn babies, and you were giving back that way. And really, I mean, outside of, I'm sure, made you feel great, but endeared you to a ton of people in Iowa City and around the state, the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you bring that up because I've probably said it a few times in previous interviews and things like that. But when I first set out to do that, I honestly thought, if we send $300 or $400 off to charity, then that's absolutely great. And I think we're up towards the $60,000, $70,000 mark, which is just absolutely crazy. And at the end of the day, I've just gone out there and punted the football, but people just donating and buying T-shirts and pledging money to one of the other charities we've got has, helped save babies, which is pretty special.
Tory, one last question for you. I actually ran into a big Iowa Hawkeyes fan when I was at the gym, and I told him, hey, we're talking to Tory Taylor. You got anything for him that you want me to ask? And he said, how do you anticipate you will handle not maybe hearing the MVP chants when you go out and punt like you did when you were in Iowa City?
No, that's absolutely fine with me. And, Nate Kading's a good friend of mine, and he kicked a while for the league. And I think one of the best words of advice he's given me is just, if you're boring and no one knows about you, that means you're doing a good job. So that's one thing that I'm just going to stick by, because when you're not performing, everyone will come after you. And I'm just going to do my job, be boring, and go about life as a Chicago Bear.
Well, Tory, this is a city that loves special teams, so I have a feeling they're still going to love you regardless. And maybe Caleb's right. Maybe there won't be as many punts, but I think everybody will be cool with that if that's the case. I think Carm's a little crushed. You're not like a big Luke Longley fan or something like that, but maybe he just didn't.
It's okay.
He didn't have that big Bulls impression in Australia, but we'll let you go, man. Thank you so much.
MJ is the GOAT. There's no doubt about that. And anyone that says anything differently, then I think they need to really reconsider where they stand in life in general.
I love you.
Yes.
I'm serious. I mean, 6 is more than 4.
Yes, and everything else too, damn it.
You need to talk to some of your teammates then.
I was going to say, you need to go have that conversation with Jalen Johnson immediately.
Yes, okay. I'll have to. I'm sure that'll be brought up at some stage, but at the end of the day, I'm not really a basketball fan, so my opinion's pretty invalid.
You're an expert. That was brilliant.
It's valid if you're on the MJ side of things, that's for sure. Yeah. Tory, thanks so much, man. We're excited to have you.
Guys. Thank you.
We'll let you go. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, he's my favorite punter in the history of punters and like top 49 Bear of all time.
Wow, 49.
Moving up the charts.
That's true. Moving up for you.
I mean, how likable is that dude? Gregory,
Very.
we missed you on the interview, buddy.
Very. Yeah, he's definitely got. Yeah, I feel bad for special teams guys because every single one ends up hearing the motto of, if they don't know your name, you're doing something
a lot
right.
like an offensive lineman, right? Yeah.
Like Patrick Manley always used to say that as well. And it's like, no, I don't mind, if he becomes like this known guy and, it's like Andres Nocioni, like kind of, role player, but everybody loves in the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if we know his name. I like the attitude he's coming in with.
He's fun. And he exudes a lot of confidence too. Like he wants to be in those moments where he's punting, he wants to control games. And even when I asked him about like what game should Bears fans go watch if they're skeptical of your play, he's like Wisconsin, but he's like, well, there's actually a couple of games. I don't want to sound too cocky, but yeah, he performed at Iowa City, and that's why he's ultimately a Chicago Bear now.
People were loving his Masters hoodie. Robert
Do
Lee
you
was good.
think
Yeah,
he
go ahead.
ever got in a fight with a kangaroo?
We should have asked him that.
Isn't that something
Bad
they
job.
do? Isn't that something they do down there?
We needed you for the interview right there.
When we get to go in the locker room, I will definitely make sure to ask. That for
at
you,
least
Greg.
come across,
You don't want to mess with kangaroos, dude.
But I'm telling you, sometimes you got to square up.
Have you guys seen that video where like the kangaroo
What the
is
hell
like?
do you know about fighting a kangaroo?
There's a
TikTok
video
reels, yeah,
where this
thank you.
kangaroo puts a dog in a headlock, and the guy like squares over the kangaroo,
Yeah.
freaking hits him
He
in the
saves
face,
his
and the
dog.
kangaroo's like, "Yo, what
The
was
kangaroo
that?"
just like, he's like,
Okay,
all
all right.
I'm walking away. I'm walking away.
Kick your ass next time. But
The other thing I want to know too is what construction because I know he worked construction before he came, but I want to know exactly what construction. That's a big tell.
You should have.
It's fine. It's fine. Just find those two things out for me. But it was a great interview.
no kangaroos were harmed.
No
in the taping
kangaroos
of
were
this
harmed
episode.
in the taping of this episode.
Well,
But I like his attitude for sure.
we're building Tory Taylor relationships. Damn it! All right, it's been a busy show. We've got 2 shows for you tomorrow.
Woo. 2 shows.
The double show Wednesday. Damn it! With schedule release
Daily
tomorrow.
double.
We excuse me. Can't do your show. Can't do the notes of the show without my notes. That's a bad job by
Need notes.
yours truly. But we have some leakage out there. Braggery.
Leakage?
Leakage.
Leakage?
That's right.
Oh no.
I want to get
Well,
that
we-
cleaned up.
Yeah, I'm pretty good over here.
Good thing you wear
gonna,
diapers.
You're gonna be an adult diaper guy all day long. Don't kid yourself. We know this. So Monday Night Football, first game, Jets 49ers.
Yeah,
Welcome.
the primetime slates are starting to get scooped up here.
Yeah, so Monday Night Football, first one of the years, the Jets and the 49ers. Welcome back, Aaron Rodgers. First night of the seasons, the Ravens and the Chiefs. And then the first Thursday night game is the Bills and the Dolphins. So
And then what?
I don't see the Bears at any of these, and that's
the
a mistake by the
Packers
NFL.
Eagles in Brazil. Is that a Sunday game or is
I
that
thought that was Friday.
is that a Friday game?
I thought I saw Friday somewhere.
I saw that too, but I don't know.
I think
maybe
Schefter actually.
somebody in the
go
chat.
check
Gary,
the Schefter.
save us.
Gary, certainly. Need his input.
Okay.
Keep going.
Adam Schefter. Week currently shapes up. Thursday night opener, Ravens Chiefs. Friday night in Brazil, Packers versus Eagles.
So we get a Thursday night, a Thursday game, a Friday game.
Sunday afternoon, you have Cowboys at Browns at 4:25. I think that's the game that
That's
Tom
already
Brady-
confirmed.
That's what it's shaping up to be from the Adam Schefter,
The leakage
the leakage.
looks like Jordan's wearing a Super Bowl hat.
Noah D. Carm rank 1 through 3, Bajan, Sanborn, Taylor. I think at this particular moment it would go. Ooh, it's tough because we've
Wow.
had Taylor on the
Sanborn.
show.
Come on now, Sanborn's one.
Is he? For
We've-
me?
he's been on our jersey's been on our set for like the last year.
Sand God is up there.
Yeah.
They're all up there. It's tough. It's a near impossible task. But I've sung a song for Tyson Bajan. We've talked to Tory Taylor. I've talked to Sand God, but not on the show. I think it might go Bajan, Taylor, Sand God.
Wow. No, I'm telling.
Sand God might be. I'm
telling Jack.
What have you done for me lately? Taylor was on the show. I'm
What have you done for me recently, kind of guy?
Yeah, I'm a flipper. I stand on nothing.
Who's a flopper? I stand on nothing.
Who's done something for me recently? Well, Tory Taylor. So he's way up the list. But I'm not giving up on you, Sir Agent, even though your dad won't respond to my incessant desires to come on the show.
I would like to arm wrestle him and see how quickly I lose.
Yeah. So all right, let's. We're back tomorrow at noon. And at 7. Schedule release officially out at 7, so we're coming back for a late night show.
Double dip.
But noon, there's going to be a ton of leakage.
Maybe they'll announce because like each day they're announcing something early.
Yeah.
So they've done like primetime announcements. So maybe early tomorrow they'll announce the international games.
Sure, why not? Super chats, before we get out of here, $1.99 from CF Candy, who's a regular, and we appreciate it. Did any of you bring up the Giants? They've had quarterbacks.
Some reference to Tyler Dunne.
Yeah,
I know they were coming in when he was putting these super chats in. No Giants references.
No Giants. And CF Candy, we could have brought up the Chiefs. The most inept franchise of all time quarterback-wise. You have to go back to 1968 and Len Dawson to find,
But the point in the article was like, New York and Chicago are big markets, so there's a lot of pressure. That was part of the percentage thing. So he's disproving the New York Jets being this big market didn't work, and that's why it didn't work when the Giants did make it work, which is fair.
Also, $4.99 from CF Candy. Open air stadium with the cold, tough markets. Does this executive not know Lambeau Field, the Giants exist? Tyler, did you not challenge this?
Challenge BS.
This challenge BS.
It seems like Tyler, did a lot of work in these articles. So, that's why I asked him the question about like all the Justin Fields stuff to just see his process. So, I like how he does things, Tyler.
I'm not exactly sure what CF Candy is pushing back on. Like, are you trying to say that the Bears have done a good job? Basically, you're saying it's not the market, that it's the football organization.
Right.
And I agree with
He's saying
him.
it's the personnel
right.
and not the Tyson Bagent songs that are...
Okay.
Making it tough.
I don't know why that took me a second to get there. CF Candy, I agree. Bear Down Omaha, $5. Have any of you heard anything to corroborate the new rumors that Fields was kind of a pain in the ass and not in working with Foles? Love you, dudes.
I remember Foles being a huge pain in the ass that year. There were a couple times he
had that really passionate press conference.
Yeah, the press conference where he was just like letting it rip on everybody, and we took that as he was pissed at Nagy, which
he probably was.
Didn't, but they were like friends. He was the reason he kept his career going.
Dude, look, he went up to the podium last year, and I'm not trying to knock on Justin because I like Justin, but he went up to the podium last year and said, "F it, I'm going to play my own way." So there's a window to behind the scenes what's going on, and he also said could be coaching. He said it. And then he had to walk it back, and he did walk it back. He didn't want to be throwing guys under the bus, but like what? And then Darnell Mooney at one point last year talked about that they need Justin to, be that leader type. And Darnell walked that back.
And I think what's so good about the article for fans is a reminder that, we look at the game on paper. We look at it from a fantasy football aspect or a video game aspect, plug and play. But there's so much in terms of chemistry and personalities and emotions and maturity. There's all those different components that go into these things working out. And sometimes I think we lose sight of that as fans. We look at something and say, on paper, this should all work. But there's a lot more to it that goes into it.
And
no doubt.
As far as just like natural personality, natural is the wrong word. As far as just as far as his personality is concerned, period. Like Justin is more of an introvert.
No doubt. Yeah.
So like the whole leadership thing, I don't think that's a natural thing for him per se, the way he operates. And then one of the things in Tyler's piece is that here's Nick Foles trying to tell him something. And he looks up, and the dude's not listening. He's not interested. He's in his phone. And Foles is like, well, screw it. That's it. And whether Justin likes Nick or not as a rookie, the right thing to be would be,
Well, and
It seemed like he
Allen-
got better from that, though. Too. I mean, if that's how Justin was acting then in rookie year, I mean, I could tell you this from being in the locker room 4 days a week on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and then after game days, people were around Justin's locker. Like, Valus was always around there. Tyson Bagent obviously was right next to him. So there were guys
absolutely
that, obviously connected with Justin. But is it realistic to think that he connected with every single one of the players on the same exact level? Probably not.
Well, and that's my question because Fields obviously had connections with some of the players on the team, maybe not all. And the way he carried himself was this cool, calm, collected demeanor, never too high, never too low, very serious person, come from a military family background. He had that aura about him, right? Now, Caleb Williams' aura is much different, and he lets his personality shine through a lot more.
Sleeve, you can see
he wears his heart on his sleeve. He shows his emotions. He shows his vulnerability. And I think fans are always going to find a way to love their players. We're Bears fans, so we're going to always have our Bears guys' backs. That's what we do. But in that locker room, this whole, he's the new Gen Z type quarterback, will everybody in the locker room embrace the way Caleb is on a different level? Like, it's just different. A football locker room is so big, and it's just so many different personalities that intertwine with each other. At the end of the day, talent rules all. Aaron Rodgers was a jerk. Yeah. Some of the wide receivers that left Green Bay ended up, not liking Aaron or coming out with the fact that they didn't like Aaron. But guess what? They made it work. They won a Super Bowl because Aaron Rodgers could rip it. So at the end of the day, if he can rip it, they'll figure it out.
Yep.
CFK, I see you in the chat. Finally, I'm glad that we got that one straightened out. Last couple supers before we get out of here. Q Harlan, what is up, Q Harlan? How much for Goff? Who says it doesn't pay to be mediocre? Goff clap for that deal. He's better than mediocre, Q Harlan.
He is, yeah.
He's
definitely improved. From the player who started in with the Rams and then to where he's at now, he definitely has improved, but it's a lot of money to pay Jared Goff.
Yeah. Robert, but again, it's a good thing for the Bears. Robert Lee, my guy, $5. Based on your current presumed starting O-line, do you guys see any changes to the O-line? If so, what position? CHGO the best. Thank you, Robert.
From what they have on the depth chart, I would think it's pretty settled at this point. Center, Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, but I still have Ryan Bates being ultimately the starter right there at center, but I don't see too much change happening there.
Who's fired up for training camp with a Bates Shelton competition at center? Who could
snap more consistent?
Who can bond quicker with Caleb? Who is the best at keeping
Caleb
himself dry during the summer months? Let's go.
Wasn't
Bates versus Shelton?
Wasn't Robert Lee Confederate general, right?
Yes,
that's what he was.
That's
what
Braggs. That's correct. But I don't know if this current.
I don't think it's
the
the
light
same one,
bulb went
Braggs.
off. It's like I learned about this guy. Now he's in our chat.
I don't know if Robert Lee
the war
wants
is
to be
over
compared to the Confederate general, but
well,
glad that's what you're here for.
He's on the wrong side of history, but now he's with CHGO Bears chat, and he's on the right side of history.
It's a good move by Robert. Way to go. He's come along. He's come a long way. Yeah, Sean Ward. Let's think about here. $5. Way early take. 25 quarterback carousel is going to be crazy. Bagent is going to look real good in a thin draft. Pay or deal?
I guess I haven't looked that far ahead.
There's Shedeur Sanders. There's Quinn Ewers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Ewers.
The fact that we're not thinking of guys probably proves this point.
True. Yeah, we don't have to worry about quarterbacks here in Chicago anymore.
We don't. And I think Sean is hitting on something. If Caleb, hopefully not, ends up missing 2 games because of a hamstring strain, and Tyson goes in there under the brilliance of Shane Waldron and his offense and lights it up, maybe he is going to be someone the Bears could trade for like a high second-round pick because he's just that good.
Wow.
Tyson Bagent.
I got a
Calm
6
down.
for Justin.
Second-round pick acquirer, Bears. What do you think of that?
calm down. Although, God forbid, but if Caleb has to miss a game or two, then Tyson Bagent comes in with all this weaponry and just balls out. That
full controversy.
Not even controversy. I'm just saying that might up the trade value. Because right now, in a year, if he doesn't play all year, what's his trade value? But if he were to get in a game, let's say the Bears have the division clinched with 3 weeks to go, and they let Tyson play a few games.
Beat the Detroit Lions.
Now we're going full meatball mode.
Full meat. Yep.
I like how Robert Lee in the chat was no, that was Robert E. Lee. Well, Robert, how do we know your middle name isn't Edward? All right?
Because
show yourself, Robert.
Robert, you should be upset, and we'll have a discussion after the show with Gregory about it.
You lost the war.
And you deserve to lose. And you were a terrible person, but you've come a long way. And now you are the best Robert Lee that we've ever had, and we love that you are a regular chatter, and we might do something really nice for you considering what just happened. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for 2 shows, noon and 7, schedule release day. There is nothing better. Thank you for watching. Thanks to Tory Taylor. Thanks to Tyler Dunne. And you have yourself the great rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.
We all silly like the mayor.